This afternoon, I'm introducing Tyler Sussman, who you have met before, and the team from Gradient. And I think we have some very interesting things that we will be hearing from this team. And many of you have asked me some questions about assessing and monitoring, and I think you're going to learn a great deal as we go along. And so I'm going to turn this over to Tyler to introduce his Gradient team. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much, Janet. And hi, all. I am Tyler Sussman. I'm a program officer at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative that has I've been leading on our partnership with AASA and the SEL cohort over the last few years. As I shared in my opening remarks yesterday, today we're going to be able to hear from another grantee that CZI supports and partners with, the Gradient Learning team. And specifically, Gradient Learning is a nonprofit that manages two innovation programs for schools. One of them is the Summit Learning Program, and then the new one that rolled out this year is called Along. Along is a digital reflection tool that makes it easier for teachers to check in one-on-one with students. And this tool, funded by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and provided as a no-cost resource to schools and districts, directly aligns with SEL cohort focus and activities that you have been focused on for these past 2 days and certainly the many years within your districts and organizations. So we wanted to make sure that you are aware of this offering. I'm going to step back and let Samia Zaidi from the Along team. Samia is the program director of Along. Share a little bit more about the product and tool, as well as Jess Granger, who is another team member at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative that helped with the research and content development of the tool. So here they are, and I'll let them share a little bit more with you.
Thank you so much, Tyler, and great to meet everybody. Again, my name is Samia Zaidi, and I'm the program director of Along at Gradient Learning, and really excited to give you guys a little bit of background today about where Along comes from and some of the things we have learned in the last year of piloting and how we think this is going to support teachers and students in building strong relationships in the classroom, specifically developmental relationships. So with that, I'm going to do a quick screen share. Let me just organize my screens here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of background about where Along comes from. We heard overwhelmingly, as folks went into as the pandemic took over and folks went into remote learning, we heard overwhelmingly from teachers and students and district leaders across the country that they needed ways to stay connected and for students to still feel like they had that trusted adult. We were hearing that not only was this a need that existed before the pandemic and will continue to exist, these important student-teacher relationships, but it was highlighted even more during that time. And so during remote learning, we said, well, what could we possibly provide that would help people think about continuing to form those developmental relationships? And through this, we partnered with CZI and with educators across the country to not only bring together decades of research on the importance of relationship building and on one-on-one connections with students, but also what are all of the ways that we could make it easier for educators to have this in their classrooms. I've heard overwhelmingly from teachers that they are excited about SEL. They're excited to form these connections with students, but they don't always have the how. They don't always have what is the actual way that I can do this in my classroom. And so we built Along, which, as Tyler said, is a free digital reflection tool that helps each student feel seen and heard. And it provides educators with ready-to-use resources and questions that they can use to get started right away and build a developmental relationship with their students. And so we already did our introductions, and what I'm going to do today for part of the time is go over an overview around Along and the content that we have used to inform Along that is based in research, and then go from that into actually like a demo of the tool. And then we'll end with some Q&A. And so feel free to ask questions as we go. We want to make this We know there's not like a direct dialogue, but we want to make sure we're able to answer your questions. And depending on questions, we also have Jess Granger here from the CZI content team who has been working with our partners who can give a little bit more context at the end as well. So that's what we're going to go through. So again, as I said, along content is really one of the things I want to highlight in this group. We designed along to help teachers build supportive relationships with students. Decades of research confirms what I know I found in my own classroom, that when I knew my students and they knew me, I was able to be a better teacher for them, and they were actually able to learn better. So we used the Search Institute Developmental Relationships Framework to actually think about how we could design content that would build towards stronger developmental relationships. Studies have shown that students who experience core elements in relationships with their teachers actually feel more connected to school, are more motivated to work hard and earn higher grades than students whose relationships with teachers don't capture these elements of a relationship. So this Search Institute framework that we've used is really grounded on this idea of helping a teacher form a developmental relationship. And we worked with partners to craft reflection questions that specifically express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. These 5 core elements are essential in moving towards a developmental relationship that fosters growth among students. Intuition would tell us that expressing care is what relationships are all about, and we know that that is one of the critical elements. But along's content, which is made up of shared reflection questions, educator practices, and classroom activities, is organized around this more comprehensive 5 elements of Search Institute's framework on applied research for how to build those developmental relationships. Each of these elements is in turn associated with actions based on years of conducting and synthesizing research from millions of students to identify how these actions can actually lead towards a developmental relationship. And so with that, I want to just step back and actually show you how a lot of this content comes to life in the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this and open up Along. So when an educator comes into Along, they are able to quickly select from a reflection question. So I'm going to go into a collection called Shared Goals and Aspirations. And within this collection, I'm offered a bunch of reflection questions. And I'm given some scaffolds here and supports as an educator as I think about which question I want to use to kick off that reflection cycle with my student. If I hover over any of the questions, I'm given some additional guidance. For this one, this question is, what is a big goal you want to achieve by the end of this year? When I hover over, I'm given, use this when. You want to support students to identify a big goal and what it might take to achieve it this year. And then this can help students identify their priorities and set a goal to challenge themselves to meet this year. This helps me make a decision about which question I want to use at this point in the school year with my students. Once I've decided that this is the one that I want to do, I can go ahead and click into it and decide if I want to send it now, or do I want to send it up to 2 weeks in advance, because routine is critical in the classroom, as we know. And so actually offering educators the opportunity to say, I send questions out on Wednesdays, so I'm going to record this today, but be ready to send it next Wednesday. I can then add all of my students and share this video out to each of them, though it opens a one-on-one dialogue between myself and the student. Or I can send it to a smaller group of students or just one student very quickly. From there, I'm actually taken into still having the question, what is a big goal you want to achieve by the end of this year? And I'm also offered suggested talking points and additional tips. And this is a place that we really leaned in with partners and with educators to think about in the creation of the content. What could we do to actually support building a model of what a response would look like when you are delivering this video or audio to your student? And so if I select that I'd like to do a video, I'm able to then actually start recording, and I can use these suggested talking points or come up with my own. And so what my response might look like would be, when we set goals, it's important for us to be specific. I want you to think about a goal that you have that will take you longer than 3 weeks to achieve and that you feel is actually in your control. For me, that's running a half marathon in less than 2 hours. I'm trying to work towards that between now and the end of the year, and I'm doing a lot of practice to get there. What's a big goal that you want to achieve by the end of this year? I would then send that to my students, and it would open up a one-on-one communication between me and that student, where then they are able to actually respond back to me and share their thoughts on either audio, video, or text on their own time and in their own way, without the stress of having peers see that video. It's just between me and them so that I can get to know them better and they can get to know me better. Additionally, within this collection, we have classroom activities and educator practice materials, which are also connected to that Search Institute Developmental Relationships Framework. And so as you can tell from here, where we were discussing a big goal that we might want to achieve by the end of the year, things I may learn from my students is that they have a challenge in actually learning from mistakes along the way. And so in these classroom activities, I'm given context that it would normalize struggles by learning how successful people learn from mistakes and failures. And I can click into this classroom activity and be able to quickly have something I could use with my students to deepen the engagement on what I've learned through that reflection cycle. Similarly, with educator practice materials, I'm given an opportunity here to deepen my own practice as an educator. And so these are materials that are provided to the educator directly, such as Challenge Yourself with Growth Mindset. This helps an educator make a habit of asking yourself questions to reflect on how you build and maintain relationships with students. And so with that, I'm just going to show one last thing here, and then we're going to go back. When a student actually responds to one of the questions, we are given their video, they've sent their video, we're able to actually validate that response as an educator. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I might add some additional context there, and I can take some notes about what I'm learning about that student and what trends I'm building on for that student so that I can use that in my future responses. I go ahead and go back to our slides. All right, so that's like the high level overview of Along and some of the pieces that you can see, the ways in which the content creation, all of those classroom activities, the reflection questions, and the educator practice materials have been worked into the Search Institute Developmental Relationships Framework and in partnership with all of our content partners. I did want to spend a couple of minutes just talking through implementation models. I know this is a question I often get when talking to districts and school leaders, is how do I actually fit this into my schedule? And how much time is it going to take me? So in using Along in the classroom, this can be used in an advisory or a homeroom period with one class of students. So for grades 4 through 12, we've seen this in upper elementary, middle, and high school as the target audience. And so depending on the structure of the school, finding about 30 students, though we definitely have folks from the last year of piloting who have done this with fewer students or with more students, but our recommendation has been about 30 students as a flexible starting point. It can be used asynchronously outside of class time because it's pretty quick to actually just record those videos. And it's like something that I could do in my own time as a teacher and also have my students respond on that routine schedule. Similarly, I could also use it in class time and give a specific day of the week when students are going to be able to watch that video from me and think about what their responses are going to be, potentially use a classroom activity during that time as well to deepen engagement. Pilot teachers have let us know it takes them about 30 minutes a week or so to actually record their video and send that out to students, and up to an hour, depending on how much time they're taking to record, actually watch all of those student responses, validate that they've seen them, and think about any deeper engagement within that reflection cycle. I'm going to just quickly go into Q&A and stop the screen share for a moment and see if we have gotten any questions. Okay, I saw that we had one question come in. Does it integrate with Clever? Thank you so much for asking this. So right now, the way that we have rostering take place for students is that there is an individual code that teachers are able to generate, like a quick link. Right now, we don't have an integration with Clever. Teachers are put their first reflection question with a link that then they share in other tools. We've seen this go through maybe Google Classroom or other communication tools, and students just click that one link and it loads them into their teacher class from there. Do we have any other questions? All right, well, I would love to, while we wait for other questions, sorry, Tyler, did you want to hop in with a question?
Not with a question, but I did want to make a comment while we were waiting for other questions.
Great.
Which, one, absolutely incredible to see the tool in action. Thank you so much for demoing that, Samia. And then two, I wanted to let the SEL cohort members know that, so the tool, free for schools, free for teachers. Obviously, there's some support necessary in order to help teachers understand how to use this effectively in the classroom. So by virtue of your participation in the SEL cohort, Gradient Learning and the CCI team are partnering to make sure that there's some professional learning opportunities available for your teachers. So if any of the districts in the audience today are thinking this could be a good fit to support social emotional wellness practices in your classrooms, in addition to having free access for the tool, we can make sure that we set your teachers up with some professional learning support in order to make sure that they're ready to go in the classroom with this tool.
Absolutely. I just wanted to put this slide on that I was going to put up at the end, but I'll put it up here now as well, which is on our website. There's a tab on our website for schools, so just at along.org, where you can sign up to connect with my team. We've put together a number of resources on things such as Search Institute Developmental Relationship 101, helping teachers think about how to integrate relationship building as a core component in their classroom, and how do you actually build towards a developmental relationship. Everything from that to additional professional development on just getting started and building routines in your classroom and fitting this into your schedule. And so, as Tyler said, if you want to learn more and think about where we could provide that additional support to your district or to schools in your district, you can fill out that form. And in doing so, just let us know that you heard about us through the AASA cohort, and through letting us know you came in through AASA, we'll make sure that we're able to follow up and schedule what it would look like to plan for professional development opportunities and additional resources like webinars, et cetera, for folks in your district. So thank you, Tyler, for calling that out. And we can take a look when anybody fills out that form on the website and just lets us know that it's from AASA. Are there any other questions that we can answer for folks? And if not, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking a little bit more about the content. Okay. Jess, I'd love to invite you to come onto video for a moment, since we have a few minutes. I think in particular with this audience of folks who are really thinking about SEL within their districts, the creation of the content is something that is really important to highlight here. And I want to hear a little bit more, since you've worked most directly with our content partners, about who we've partnered with and thinking about this content, and how we made some of these decisions about vetting the content and our processes for that. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure, Samuel. As you might imagine, CZI has a fairly extensive network of schools through our partnership with Gradient Learning, as well as school adjacent organizations. And so we drew on that when we were looking at the kind of content we wanted to create. And we sourced our partners based on what are the core criteria that we need our SEL curriculum to have. What do we want the content along to? What do we want to be true about the content along? So we sourced partners like the Search Institute with their expertise around developmental relationships, Teach Plus with their expertise in classroom implementation, the Black Teacher Collaborative with their focus on content and guidance for teachers that is racially and culturally sustaining. And we've also partnered with organizations like Understood, a nationwide leader in helping make content accessible for the 1 in 5 students with learning differences and exceptional learning needs. Part of our goal in the content development process has been to scaffold and synthesize these research-based practices into not only the reflection questions and teacher resources in the tool, but also the features and design of the law. We know that teachers are facing a lot of challenges and responsibilities as we return to school in the fall, and therefore we want to give them exactly the kind of support and guidance that they find most helpful in implementing SEL curriculum and activities and content in their classrooms that is accessible, racially and culturally affirming, and that's going to genuinely resonate and land well with youth.
Thank you so much, Jess. I just wanted to highlight that for this group in particular, since we're thinking about not only all of the work that went into the creation of the content that's in Along now, but also additional professional development and resource opportunities for teachers as we move forward that our partners are helping to engage with. For how can we actually deepen around some of these areas in which those partners bring specific expertise. And so we're really excited that they are available for that and that we can think about professional learning opportunities moving forward. All right, are there any other questions before we sort of wrap up with that opportunity to contact us if you'd like to learn more? Okay. I am hearing that there are not other questions at this time, so I will just close by making a reminder with the team that in order to connect with my team at Gradient Learning and think about professional learning opportunities for your teachers, folks in your district, and thinking about, planning for multiple teachers at a school, or just teachers who are who are ready to get started right away, teachers can sign up directly on the website and get started immediately. But we also want to plan alongside school and district leaders specifically to think about those deeper engagements. What kind of getting started support might somebody need that's a little bit more personalized? What additional resources could we create that would be helpful for folks in your district? And this would be provided at no cost. So if you are interested in contacting our team and setting up an opportunity to talk more, please just visit along.org and go to the tab, which is the For Schools tab, and give us your information there. And then a member of my team will reach back out and set up a conversation with anyone from yourself to other folks in your district who you think would be interested in bringing this to educators going into this back to school period where we know how important it will be for SEL to take a major focus in order to enable students to show up in a way that can allow for student engagement in the classroom. And so really excited to talk with anyone in this group. Tyler, anything else that you would like to add?
Nothing else from my end, Sandra. Thank you so much for detailing this tool for the SEL cohort. And again, all cohort members, we'd be happy to help support you with some PD to get teachers going with this tool to support social emotional wellness in the classroom. I think with that, we can turn it back to Shelley and or Janet to close us out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Samia, Jess, and Tyler. This is exciting. We talk about the importance of a relationship and that every student needs to have a connection to a caring adult. And this is a great tool to be used for that. I'm looking at this also and saying, oh my goodness, I wish we had this in our district when we were doing remote learning, because this is good for being present in the classroom, but it would have been great for us to use as we were in and out in the last year and a half. So it's a very exciting. And that relationship with the student is powerful. And so often kids will tell you things online in a private way that would never happen in another situation. So this is exciting, and we really appreciate the opportunity for those of our districts in this cohort to be able to use this. So thank you for bringing that to us.